Hi, Andrew from SACS, and welcome to video number 3 in our 8-video sequence on communication for engagement and morale. And in this one, we'll be raising the question of whether you are credible or not. What is it that makes a person credible in communication? Well, fortunately, there's been some fantastic research along these lines, and these are things that you might consider factoring into your own efforts to improve your credibility and to get cut through in communication. So research has indicated for decades characteristics which have consistently been shown to affect credibility. The first is whether you are considered to be expert or not. If you are a priest and you comment on matters related to God, you may well be more credible than somebody who is not a priest, let's say. Same if you're an accountant and you're giving advice on things associated with financial matters. Pretty straightforward one. The next is the degree to which you are considered to be trustworthy. So this is an individual differences type characteristic. Have I seen this person be honest and truthful previously? And if people have seen you to be honest and truthful, then they're much more likely to trust you because they consider you to be trustworthy. An interesting one is dynamic. In other words, if a person is considered to be kind of energetic in the way that they interact with other people, that makes them more credible. Isn't that interesting? So people who might be a bit tacit, a bit wishy-washy, a bit passive, aren't considered to be as credible as people who are considered to be energetic, thrusting, somewhat energetic in the way that they interact with the world. That can increase levels of credibility. So, for those of you who are public speakers, for instance, this is something to practice. How can I make sure that my energy levels are necessary to get cut through in this way? Not in the sense of being hysterical or over the top, but matching perhaps the levels of energy that you bring to presentations to the levels that the audience is likely to expect. Let's talk about other characteristics that affect perceptions of credibility. Firstly, we mentioned the trustworthiness factor in the previous slide. Then there are receiver variables. And examples of receiver variables are the things that I mentioned in the last video, things like people's personality and values. So if an audience is strongly committed to environmental sustainability, for instance, well, it's a good idea to demonstrate how whatever you are asking them to do can contribute to environmental sustainability. We do a lot of work in the healthcare sector. So people who care enormously about patient well-being tend to want to see everything that gets done in the context of patient well-being. So bringing that back to what people really care about is an important thing from a credibility point of view. The next one is to do with source characteristics. Source characteristics being the characteristics of the communicator. So a fitness trainer who is physically fit and shares a similar background with the audience could be more persuasive in promoting a healthy lifestyle. Interestingly, there's been quite a bit of research into physical attractiveness, and physical attractiveness can increase credibility, but only if you're not considered to be expert. If a person is considered to be expert, then physical attractiveness goes nowhere. But if a person isn't considered to be a particularly credible source, but they are physically attractive, then that will cause them to have a little more credibility than if they weren't physically attractive. Similarity matters a lot in human beings. This is called the propinquity effect sometimes. Closeness. How close am I to you in terms of things that we share? Are we both parents, or do we both live in the same geographical location, or do we have similar interests? There is no question about it. If people perceive you to be more similar to me, then they're much more likely to take the message from me. And of course, another thing that matters enormously in communication credibility is context. Think of crisis times, like for instance COVID-19. The messages that came out of government, or perhaps healthcare providers, could be extremely blunt. You must do this, you must do that. And in non-crisis times, we might have been inclined to say, well, don't talk to me like that. But it works in crisis times. Also, you think of extreme politicians. At times of economic crisis, they've been able to get cut through with their messages because of the fact that people consider, well, we're really in trouble here. And so we need to consider much more extreme suggestions about what we should do. Things that perhaps we wouldn't have considered seriously at other times. So context matters as well. So there are some tips about credibility, and I guess it comes down to things like your own appropriate presentation about what is likely to cause you to be more credible. Things like, for instance, have you painted yourself credibly as an expert? Have you presented yourself appropriately? And that can come down to things like dress, which we'll talk about in a couple of videos' time. The next video is video number 4, where we talk about communicating remotely. What we're talking about there is that so many people work from home, or maybe you're dealing with stakeholders who are not in your geographical location, or you simply, for other reasons, don't have a chance to see them face to face. What can you do to get cut through when you're dealing with people that you don't actually meet? Click on the link near this video to join us for the next video in this sequence.